Thank you.
Now, let's start with what is autism?
So ASD, or autism spectrum disorder, is a pretty complex neurological disorder that impacts development. It impacts the way the brain processes information. So it's characterized, people with ASD have difficulties with social communication, social interactions, restricted and repetitive behaviors. They often have restricted interests and activities. Those differences can often be seen when a child is a toddler, between 18 months and 2 years, but it really varies. Individuals with ASD have really unique needs and strengths, so in some children it can be pretty obvious, the symptoms, and others it's really subtle.
And how common is autism?
Autism occurs approximately in 1 in 88, with a slight increase in males, given 1 in 54.
Now, how old was your child when first diagnosed?
My son was 4 when he was officially diagnosed, but we noticed signs as early as 2 months, and we were pretty sure at 20 months, but he didn't receive the official diagnosis until he was 4.
Cheryl?
My son was 4 when he was diagnosed with developmental delays. That was 18 years ago. So we didn't get an actual diagnosis of thinking he had autism until 3rd grade, but we did not actually receive a good, strong diagnosis until about 6th grade.
I see. And how do individuals with autism spectrum disorder communicate?
It's actually a really huge range. Generally, young children with ASD develop language later, and they really need to be taught to enjoy interactions with people and to really get the social part of communication, the reciprocity of communication, before they can even be taught that communication is powerful. Some individuals with ASD don't use verbal language. They'll use either some verbal and some combination of things like sign language or picture exchange communication systems or a vocal output device. Then there are other individuals with ASD that are completely verbal, and their language really appears to be typical. They have appropriate grammatical structures and they're easy to understand, but even those individuals often have trouble with the social aspects of communication, so the reciprocity, the back and forth of communication. They often want to talk about what they want to talk about and their interests, topics that are interesting to them.
And isn't that one of the things that makes it so difficult when trying to diagnose, because of the fact that it's not like a cookie cutter process where some young people light affects them where others it doesn't, some it's sounds. Is that not one of the real critical factors in trying to get one's arms around whether or not a child is suffering with ASD?
Yeah, and the sensory sensitivities is something that I think most people see in individuals with ASD, but it's actually not part of the diagnostic criteria.
I see.
So it looks more at the behaviors, the repetitive behaviors that perhaps have become coping strategies for kids who have sensory sensitivities. So if they really like the way light reflects off wheels, they might spin wheels a lot, or if they like the motion, they might watch that. So that would be considered the repetitive behavior that's kind of based on that sensory interest. But you're exactly right. It's often said in the field or in just an ASD community generally that if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. It's so unique, and definitely their needs are different, but their strengths are different too. So.